series looks at the truth behind the legend. Sorry to bother you so late at night, but we're well turned around. You can show us the way back to the main road?
Well, I'm glad to, boys. I'm always ready to help the Union cause.
That's great, thank you.
Now you go down here about half a mile.
We're standing south. Yankees scum around every corner. You're gonna teach them brutality.
Confederacy will never die, and neither will the James brothers. Come on!
On the North American plains, opportunity calls men of courage to chase the sun west into a new frontier. They would shape a nation, lay hold of their destiny, and birth a new mythology. But with the passing of time, every myth has its reckoning. Jesse Woodson James, a rebellious Southern boy, born with a chip on his shoulder and a gun in his hand. Known to America as a legendary outlaw. But behind every villain stands a man, and behind every legend lies the truth.
Many people think of Jesse James as a Robin Hood type character, a social bandit who steals from the rich and gives to the poor. That's a romanticized legend of Jesse James. The truth is, he's a violent criminal, a Civil War rebel, who holds a grudge against the Union and its supporters long after the war comes to an end.
With the Reconstruction effort underway, the country is slowly reuniting. But in western Missouri, memories are long and bitter.
Excuse me, sir. Can I trouble you for change for this $100 bill?
We're bold robbers, and I'm proud of the name. Alexander the Great was a bold robber. Julius Caesar, Napoleon Bonaparte. Rank us for these.
Look who we have here. Damn. It's that Yankee that ambushed us and killed Brother Bill.
Jesse James is a disciple of William Anderson, a Confederate guerrilla fighter some historians consider the Civil War's most vicious war criminal. Known as Bloody Bill, He's a man Jesse views as a father figure. And when Bill is killed in a battle, Jesse vows revenge.
Get down! Open the safe. Damn it, Cox. You killed Brother Bill. You got the wrong man. Shut up! You know what you did!
Lieutenant Samuel Cox is the man responsible for killing Bloody Bill Anderson. He's from the same town the bank is in, and may even be the reason the James brothers target him. But in his rage, Jesse James kills the wrong man.
Cold-blooded killers, Frank and Jesse James start out as happy church-going boys on a farm in the woods of Clay County, Missouri. Jesse's father, Robert James, is a Baptist minister.
Robert James, he's selected by a group of men there who want to go out west to California. And he's the chaplain on this expedition to go out gold mining. Jesse's a very young child at this time, and his father dies in California.
His mother, Zerelda, is a fierce Southern woman at a time when women have no rights to property. She refuses to give up and quickly finds a husband in Reuben Samuel, who allows her to take control of the farm and family. Zerelda manages over 100 acres of hemp and tobacco by leaning on slave labor.
Zerelda raised both of her sons to not only be for the institution of slavery, but to fight for it and to commit crimes in the name of the cause.
The James family owns at least 7 slaves, and they're proud of it. In western Missouri, Jesse James's family would rather secede than change. But the institution of slavery is being challenged in the nation's capital. The Nebraska Territory on Missouri's border is poised to join the Union. U.S. Senator Stephen Douglas proposes a controversial plan, splitting the territory in two, Kansas and Nebraska.
The Kansas-Nebraska Act leaves the decision on whether a new territory would be slave or free to the voters.
This bill will triumph. It will impart peace to the country and stability to the Union.
From the chaos, a voice of reason emerges in Abraham Lincoln.
White man takes his slave to Nebraska now. Who will inform the Negro that he is free? Inasmuch as you do not object to my taking my hog to Nebraska, therefore I must not object to your taking your slave. Now I admit this is perfectly logical. If there in fact is no difference between hogs and Negroes.
Despite Lincoln's efforts, the Kansas-Nebraska Act is passed, a decision that expands slavery. But the vote settles nothing and ignites a firestorm. Violence divides Nebraska and Kansas. Fighting spills over into western Missouri, and battle lines are drawn in Jesse's hometown, where pro-slavery bushwhackers face off against abolitionists called Jayhawkers.
These were men on both sides of the Union-Rebel divide, fighting at a local level using brutal tactics.
On the James family farm, Zerelda is busy shaping the next generation of bushwhackers. She sees it as her sacred duty to weaponize her boys to fight for the Confederacy.
Don't you take anything from those Yankees. You hear me? It's every man's responsibility to hold on to what they got. If somebody ain't holding on to what's theirs, you just take it.
Her coaching is the beginning of what criminologists call violence conditioning.
Jesse has a mother who's saying, nobody's going to tell me what to do. We own slaves, and nobody's going to take that away from us. Seeing violence as his way of life, he absorbed that attitude from her.
Over the next 6 years, the James family farm transforms into a Confederate stronghold. Frank and Jesse are now a force that the North will have to reckon with. On April 12, 1861, the South fires on Fort Sumter. The Civil War begins. Frank James is plunged into battle, fighting in the militia for the Confederate Army. Zerelda knows that Jesse will soon join him, and both her sons will be at war for the cause.
You're gonna fight for the Confederacy.
That's right, Mama.
Your way of life.
Don't you let me down.
Union militia in the area started looking for these bushwhackers. Zerelda had told everyone that Frank was one of them.
Go for your brother, Frank.
I don't know where he is. I believe you do, you little rebel son of a bitch.
Keep up the wall!
Jesse's stepfather, Reuben, is tortured until he gives up Frank's location.
Reuben!
The Civil War has just landed on Jesse's doorstep. The boy who was once on his way to becoming a preacher is about to transform into a killing machine. At the outbreak of the Civil War, Frank and Jesse James are already fighting in a war that's equal parts personal and political.
The James brothers grow up in Civil War Missouri, a state divided on the issue of slavery. Their mother, Zerelda, is a fanatical supporter of the Confederacy and the right to own slaves. Most historians believe it is she who instills in her boys a violent hatred that will go on to define them as adults.
There's Yankee scum around every corner.
Just gonna look him right in the eye. Zerelda was very influential in Jesse's development. He ends up being rewarded for violence and for all of these things that go hand in hand with war.
With these guns, you're gonna teach them brutality.
James brothers mount up with the Confederate Western Missouri Bushwhackers, a unit led by Bloody Bill Anderson, a man whose rage matches their own, and whose savage brutality fosters a bloodlust within his men. In the fall of 1864, Union troops are gaining ground in western Missouri, but Anderson's forces fight back through murder and acts of terror.
Here you have a 16-year-old Jesse with this guerrilla band who are engaging in the most atrocious activities, killing behind enemy lines.
Their main targets are the railroads, the lifeblood of the Union advance. On September 27, 1864, Bloody Bill and 80 of his soldiers hijack a train. But instead of supplies, they find something even more valuable.
this train has aboard a number of Union forces and home guards that are on their way home. They're unarmed. They really pose no threat, but they've now fallen to Bloody Bill Anderson and his band.
All you Yankee sons of bitches gonna die like dogs!
Bloody Bill wasn't afraid to send a message. That can be pretty brutal. We're talking about cut-out tongues, scalps, desecrating dead bodies.
Bloody Bill Anderson had a very deep effect on Jesse James because he was something of a mentor to Jesse. And James was involved in a lot of imitative behavior doing what Bloody Bill did.
The Bushwhackers kill 4 civilians and 22 Union soldiers. Jesse and Frank James ride with Bloody Bill's unit. Until it's ambushed.
Come on, go!
By Samuel Cox and his men.
Samuel Cox, he was a scout turned military leader. And so he trailed and tracked Bloody Bill.
Jesse, we gotta get him out of here.
Bloody Bill dead, the Union Army begins hunting down the rest of the Bushwhackers. Jesse splits from the group and is shot in the chest. Frank is captured and surrenders. He's forced to take an oath pledging loyalty to the Union.
That I will henceforth faithfully support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Union of the state thereunder.
Jesse is a prisoner of war under the Union flag and must surrender before his wounds are treated. But he has no intention of giving up. Even if the Confederacy is defeated.
For Jesse James, this is not an end of his conflict. This is the end of someone else's conflict. Not Jesse James's conflict. Not Frank James's conflict. Their conflict isn't over. It's still going on.
With Northern interests in power across Missouri, Frank and Jesse join forces with a group of brothers who share their fierce hatred for the Yankees. The Youngers lost their father and family home to the Union. They too served under Bloody Bill Anderson in his brutal campaign of terror. The James and the Youngers have known each other well before the Civil War. They honed that relationship. They realized the potential they had as a fighting force.
What do you reckon's next for us?
Well, just picking the place to strike.
Picking the place? Picking the man?
They had to do something to strike back against federal authority and everything they saw as being oppressors in their life.
Everyone on the ground, now! Get down! Grab the money, Frank!
It makes sense, then, to express your outrage by robbing banks.
Put the money in the bag. Now! Come on!
It is true that we are robbers. We rob only in the glare of the day and in the teeth of the multitude. We do not kill only in self-defense. When they refuse to unlock their safes and vaults to us, we kill.
Damn it, Cox!
Together, the James Younger Gang is a terrifying bunch, hell-bent on resurrecting the Confederacy. After pulling off the first daylight bank robberies in U.S. history, the James Younger Gang hits the jackpot. Equal to nearly $900,000 today. But their success only fuels their ambition. The railroads are established by the Union during the war, a symbol of Northern power and a tool to build its wealth. The Pinkerton Detective Agency is hired to guard the cargo. For Jesse and Frank, the trains are a perfect target if they don't get caught.
The Pinkertons were essentially the first real detective agency, almost the precursor of an FBI. And their role was to essentially run down criminals.
Hands up! Easy!
There is no reason for a man to do anything when an experienced robber gets the go on him.
Wallet, watch it! Tell!
If he gives the alarm or resists, he will die.
Your purse.
And that pretty little girl.
We are but warriors for the working day. That's Shakespeare. Who among you fought for the rebel cause?
You, sir. Paid your debt.
Thank you. Let's go, Frank.
It's for the papers.
News of the James Brothers holdup spreads quickly. The robbery is a blow to the Northern Railroads and embarrasses the Pinkertons.
Allen Pinkerton, their founder, who had been a spy for the Union during the Civil War, takes it personally upon himself to bring Jesse to justice.
The nation's most powerful private security force is now on the hunt for Jesse James. The attention he receives as leader of an outlaw gang becomes an addiction.
Jesse's ambition to continue the Civil War is reinforced by his ego. As his reputation spreads, the charismatic young outlaw with a catchy name captures the imagination of defeated Confederates. That recognition only escalates his violent rebellion.
In Kansas City, the name Jesse James catches the eye of a former Confederate major turned newspaperman.
John Newman Edwards was a former Confederate cavalryman. He was very sympathetic to what the Jameses were doing because he wanted to oppose Reconstruction politics in Missouri.
The train robbery is one of the nation's first, and for John Edwards, it elevates Jesse James to hero status, making him an even stronger tool to rally the disgruntled Confederacy.
Edwards, he wanted to see these downtrodden Confederates take their political future into their own hands, and he thought the James Gang would inspire them, and that's why he started writing positive reports. He made them the legends that they were.
Newspaper readers across the country buy into the Robin Hood myth, while in truth, he's a greedy, vicious killer. Now clearly in the sights of the Pinkertons, who have been contracted to catch him.
Alright, young lady, I'll tell you. Jesse, I must admit, that was a fairly well-run operation.
Easy down. Hold on, boys. Getting a little overexcited. Let's all just have a drink together. I had all the fun.
Not bad at all.
The Pinkertons convince a neighbor to alert them to the James brothers' presence on the family farm. They plan a night raid. But when the Pinkertons throw an illumination device through the window, the only ones home are Jesse's mother, stepfather, and 13-year-old half-brother.
Reuben and Zerelda think it's a firebomb and sweep it into the fireplace. That turns it into an actual bomb.
Once again, the James brothers have brought war to the doorstep of their home, and their family is caught in the crossfire. The Pinkerton raid on Jesse's family maims his mother and kills his half-brother Archie. Jesse vows revenge.
I hope and pray that our Heavenly Father delivers you into my hands. And I believe He will, for His merciful and protecting arm has ever been with me. And I believe He will continue and ever protect me for as long as I serve Him.
We know that the Pinkertons used spies, so it may have been the case that they had placed a spy on an adjacent farm. Jesse thinks that's probably the reason why there was an assault on James's family home.
Jesse reverts to his days as a bushwhacker and plans an ambush on the man who betrayed his family.
You're gonna teach them brutality.
This is now the Pinkerton attacked an old woman and a little boy.
After the raid on the farm, Pinkerton gives up on the James brothers. But Jesse's now uncertain about his safety in Missouri. He looks north for an easy target.
Jesse targets Minnesota for a very simple reason: overconfidence. He views Northern Banks as no match for the former bushwhackers, but not everyone in the gang agrees.
Jesse, need I remind you that Minnesota is in Union territory? Can you promise me when you inquire into me?
All right, Frank, all right. The gang heads 400 miles north, posing as cattle buyers. They begin casing towns with banks to rob. Northfield is a prosperous town with the population and economic growth in Minnesota. Look like a ripe berry to those guys. With their long coats and impressive sidearms, the Missouri boys stand out among the Swedish immigrant farmers.
It's a local bank, which it bears noting were the kind of banks that Jesse James liked to hit. Most of the banks he robbed were filled with local people's money. But the gang arouses the suspicions of the townspeople.
Throw up your hands for we intend to rob this bank.
We'll see. Be damn quick about it.
The citizens of Northfield have a number among them who are some of the esteemed soldiers from the Civil War from the 1st Minnesota. Esteemed because of their battle record. So this soft argument, well, it's not as soft as they thought.
I can't open that safe. It has a time lock.
The time lock safe is a safe that can only be opened at certain times of the day, regardless of whether you have the combination. Something that Jesse James has not experienced to that point.
See if one of them knows something. side.
Go!
Shoot something!
For God's sakes, get out there! Jesse, come on! Come on, Jesse, there!
The bank robbery of Northville was an absolute disaster. It was an ambush, but it was an ambush of the Roman making.
Come on, Jesse!
Two of Jesse's men are killed. The rest are lucky to escape the town's assault. But trailing behind them is the largest manhunt in the nation's history. A posse of nearly 1,000 men mounts up and heads west into Minnesota's Great Woods. Jesse's made a costly mistake, and his personal war may finally be over. A decade after the Civil War, Jesse James continues his reckless fight against the Union. But pushing the battle north into Minnesota proves disastrous and puts him in the crosshairs of the nation's largest manhunt. To increase their chances against the massive search party, the gang splits up.
Jesse and Frank go one way, but the Youngers are apprehended. This is the ill-fated moment in the career where what had been a successful gang has reached a dead end.
Frank and Jesse ride nearly 400 miles through the Dakota Territory, getting away with just $26.70, and eventually returning home to Missouri.
Frank, he ultimately thought, the way this is going, it's going to be a bullet or a noose for them. But Jesse, he was diehard.
Yeah, squareheads, right? It's too bad those younger boys couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
We'll get them next time.
If we continue down this path, there will not be an exit.
Yeah, maybe for you. We'll see.
Frank is concerned with the attention Jesse's erratic behavior attracts in the papers. While a small-time Missouri criminal named Bob Ford is following Jesse's every move.
Bob Ford was this media-saturated fan. There's no better way to get close to the object of your admiration than to join his gang. And maybe in some way become a little bit like him. That's the picture of Bob Ford that we have today.
At this point, Jesse James is losing his edge. Historians have proven that he starts abusing laudanum, an opium-based painkiller that's still legal at the time. His abuse of laudanum only adds to his fanaticism and helps to trigger his downward spiral.
Afternoon, Reverend. Thirsty?
No, thank you, son.
I need your son. Now, drink.
drinking. Frank was kind of run to the end of his strength. Jesse is carrying on a war. It no longer has a place in this changed America. These are not 19-year-old bushwhackers anymore.
Time is catching up with Jesse, and his personal war comes with a heavy price. Desperate to keep up the fight, Jesse recruits the Ford brothers, Charlie, a petty thief, and Bob, who idolizes Jesse.
All we need is a woman hand and a gun.
All we need is fucking bitches with Starlight Dog!
Any more whiskey? Any more whiskey? No problem, Jesse.
Job, Jesse.
Those coaches go up.
Here's Bob. Let's go get him.
We'll see. What you see in front of him? Anyone eyes yet?
The people he surrounded himself with were no longer the professionals. These weren't the youngers. These were amateurs.
I've been hunted for 21 years. It was one long, inexorable, eternal vigil. I was tired of an outlaw's life.
Seeing Jesse's new and inexperienced crew, Frank parts ways with his brother. Jesse begins to sink into a dark mood. He wears a holster at all times, even while sleeping. He's unbalanced, paranoid, and more dangerous than ever.
Jesse James became delusional. He was likely to be experiencing symptoms of schizophrenia as a result of years of engaging in violence.
Jesse's anxious, but for good reason. He has a weakness within his inner circle, the Ford brothers.
At this point, the Ford brothers, they're living in the same house with Jesse, and they're agitated because they're scared.
We need to kill him, or he'll kill us for sure.
Young Bob Ford. What do you have for me?
I have access to kill Jesse James if you'd like.
In the late 19th century, it is common for governments to offer rewards for criminals. But Missouri Governor Thomas Crittenden, a former Union officer, goes much farther. He offers Robert Ford $10,000 and a full pardon to kill Jesse James.
You have no more to talk about.
It's a government hit on a U.S. citizen, turning a loyal disciple into a hired assassin and a serial killer into a target. Jesse James is haunted by his violent past. The effects of war, crime, and acts of terror tear away his sanity. His paranoia casts a dark cloud over the Ford brothers, who, unknown to Jesse, have been plotting to kill him for a $10,000 reward.
Charlie and Bob were looking for an opportunity. Jesse's wife had made breakfast, and they see Jesse do something that he's never done before.
good, Jesse.
Except for this simple son of a bitch right here.
Well, Jesse.
While Bob Ford and his brother may have initially revered Jesse, when the opportunity came for them to get money, reputation, they took advantage of it.
Jesse! William!
No, I didn't do it.
Legend has painted Jesse James as a hero of the people. The truth is, he's a damaged child turned soldier and criminal, a violent sociopath with enough charisma to charm the media. He made his mark while he was alive, but in death, he becomes larger than life, an icon of the real West.
Dozens of photographs are taken of the body to prove it's the notorious outlaw. For millions of Americans, the legend of Jesse James has lived only in their imagination. Later that year, Frank James surrenders to Missouri authorities of his crimes by a pro-Confederate jury.
Bob and Charlie Ford never get their $10,000 bounty. They're forced to settle for a full pardon from the governor for murdering Jesse. 2 years later, Charlie turns the gun on himself, committing suicide. Bob Ford is murdered by a Jesse James admirer a decade later.
Over the years, Zerelda makes more money from her son's death than the Ford brothers. She begins charging tourists 50 cents to see the grave of the country's most famous outlaw. For another 50 cents, she'll even provide a pebble from his grave.
We're not idolizing Jesse James, the man. We're talking about Jesse James, the myth. Jesse was not a benevolent soul who robbed from the rich and gave to the poor. He was a psychopath.
He made his mother proud by going to war for the Confederacy, but continued his fight long past what was prudent.
The violence Jesse James lived through branded him a rebel and sent him on a path of revenge, leaving behind a legacy of destruction. He may be a popular subject for Hollywood, but sifting through the legends and lies leaves us with one of the real West's most violent